Hey, Upper East Siders and all you scandal-loving listeners out there. You've just tuned into the Non-Judging Breakfast Pod, where the coffee is strong, the waffles are fresh, and the gossip is hotter than ever. My name is Leif, and I'm your seasoned Gossip Girl veteran.
And I'm Steve, the newbie, the greenhorn, the rookie. What are we saying now that we're in season 5, Leaf?
I don't know. I recently emerged from a period of prolonged numbness, and I'm starting to feel again, both physically and emotionally. And it's made me realize I need to try new things to prevent a relapse.
New things? Give me an example.
I've had sex on almost every conceivable service, but never on a podcast desk. So there is that.
So, folks, here's the deal. Leaf has been watching Gossip Girl since it first aired, and I'm diving in for the very first time. And together we're your dynamic duo, bringing you all the drama, romance, and sometimes questionable fashion choices of this iconic 2007 series.
Bring your magnifying glasses because each week we're dissecting every detail of the show, one episode at a time. We'll connect the dots, uncover those sneaky little Easter eggs, and of course, serve up some piping hot behind the scenes tea. And expect some iconic fandom moments too, because what's a deep dive without a little drama?
And since we are all about inclusivity, there is always a seat for you at the non judging breakfast table. So go ahead and grab a mimosa or a cup of coffee, or maybe roll up something from Nate and Chuck's stash, and let's go ahead and get into this.
And this episode is all about Yom Kippur. Can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay. This episode is all about Yom Kippur, and we actually have wife of the pod, Robin, here to tell us all about it. Thanks for giving us that explanation, Robin.
Thank you very much. The love of my life.
And yes, we are here to talk about Season 5, Episode 5, The Fasting and the Furious. The original air date was October 24th, 2011. And of course, it was based on the movie all about family, The Fast and the Furious.
Yes. Here's my confession. I have never seen a Fast and the Furious movie. Not
Really?
one of them. I've seen little clips. There was one that I think I saw like the first 10 minutes of, but I have never seen a complete front to back Fast and the Furious movie. They have never caught my interest in any way, shape, or forms. And I love like cars and whatnot, but yeah.
Some of them are pretty fun heist movies.
Yeah, I should give them a shot, I'm sure.
And I was actually thinking it might be time for me to rewatch the original because it's been a long time. I do own the DVD. It was actually one of the first DVDs I had ever bought.
Oh, wow. And who was it that was in that died?
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker, right.
He's hanging out with his backup quarterback, James Vanderbeek, now.
Yeah. From
Varsity Blues.
Varsity Blues, right. Because he did not want his dad's life.
No.
I don't want your life. Which also was used in, holy shit, was it Chris Evans in Not Another Teen Movie?
Yes, it was.
Did I just put that together?
With a banana in his ass.
Yes. Oh my God. I cannot believe I just put that together.
That is America's ass.
That is America's ass, for sure. Wow, that's really funny. I just put that together.
He's been in a lot of weird movies.
Yeah. I fucking love Not Another Teen Movie. Although I haven't seen it since the 90s, so I don't know if it still holds up. But I loved that movie.
This episode was written by Peter Elkoff. This is his first of 2 episodes on the show. He also wrote the movie The Education of Charlie Banks. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's with, what's his name? Jesse Eisenberg is the star.
Oh, okay.
He also has written for the show Ugly Betty, North Shore, Sons of Anarchy, some other stuff as well.
I used to think Jesse Eisenberg was the poor man's Michael Cera, and then I realized that Jesse Eisenberg is if Michael Cera was a good actor.
Aww.
No disrespect, like I love Michael Cera, and I he's good and stuff, but I think that I originally thought that he was the better actor, but now I really think that Jesse Eisenberg is
That's
the
fair.
better actor.
The episode was directed by Joe Lazaroff, longtime producer of the show. Has also directed Oh Brother, Where Bart Thou, How to Succeed in Bassness, The Empire Strikes Jack, War at the Roses, and The Townie.
Now I know the Townie was good. Oh Brother, Where Bart Thou, was that the funeral?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, because that was good. That was a good episode. I remember the title How to Succeed in Bassness, but I don't remember.
So that one and War of the Roses were both episode 7s, which are both chair-centric episodes.
Okay. And I hated Empire Strikes Jack because that was the start of that was in the midst of the mom and selling the hotel for Blair storyline.
Well, that's like the end of it, basically.
Is that the last one?
Pretty close to it.
Okay.
But the directing actually was not bad because they did get all like the very Star Wars feel to it with Jack, it was Darth Vader like standing by the window being evil and just standing there.
Yeah. He was standing there with the mom too, right?
No, I don't think so.
Was the mom still in it yet?
No, I think she had left at this point.
Okay. Yeah,
I believe 16 was the episode with the indecent proposal.
Okay, I think so.
And then as far as guest stars, of course, we get Wallace Shawn and Margaret Collin back as Eleanor and Cyrus. And we are introduced to K.K. Moggy as Dr. Eliza Barnes.
Awesome.
Why don't you give us that Vulture recap?
Vulture has to say, you won't get where you want to be unless you bend the rules a little. Ivy informed Nate on last night's episode of Gossip Girl after the pair cracked open the Vanderwoodson family box of secrets so she can keep her job, false identity, and Nate can keep entertaining the notion that he's not the sex slave of a second-rate tabloid editor, but kind of like John F. Kennedy Jr. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the Upper East Side, Serena sold out Dan, the love of her life, in order to fulfill her career woman fantasies, which is sort of fair enough because Dan sold out everybody else already, and Beatrice connived to steal the throne from under her brother, which is also sort of fair because Louis has the charisma of a piece of locks and couldn't lead a child softball team with the necessary aggression. No lies detected.
And I think we're back to the writers not talking to each other between episodes.
Yes.
Because Louis was like totally flip-flop from last week.
Well, and they can't figure out what to do with him because they keep recycling these things. And it's the same conflicts over and over again, and they can't figure out what to do with him. And 1 week it is, oh, well, my family is the most important thing. And the next week it's like, well, no, fuck you, family, I'm in charge now. And what are they doing?
But as far as his, like, last week, he was, like, completely non-trusting of Blair, but this week he's completely trusting her again.
Yeah. Well, and completely trusting of her again, or is he just like, fuck it, I'm not going to trust her ever, so that's the life I'm going to live? That's almost what it seems like, especially by the end.
We roll into Act 1. Gossip Girl has this to say. On the Upper East Side, it's not what you say that determines who you are, it's what you do. Whether you make the big announcement or trying to close a deal or firing the first shot. Blair and Louis are preparing to tell their families about the pregnancy.
Yeah. Good job, guys. Yay. Glad you're on the
Jane
same page this
calls
week.
Jane calls Serena to remind her that Jane calls Serena to remind her and the audience that Serena's job depends on getting the option for Dan's book locked up. We also learn that Serena has finished reading the whole book now.
Yeah. Yes. Is this when she comes downstairs, or no? She
No.
just is talking down.
Yeah, she's in her room on the phone with Jane.
Yes, and Jane puts all of this on her. Yeah.
But I think it's important that we learn that she has now finally read the whole book.
Yes, indeed.
Her and Rufus, I think, are the only ones.
Uh-huh. It seems so.
Maybe Lily.
Oh, I think Lily did. I think Lily tore through that book.
Yeah, she loved it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, again, I feel like Lily loved it, and I'm sure Lily was not presented in a great light. And I'm sure there was a lot of moments that Lily was reading that was like, huh, that seems like a shitty thing for someone to do, but took it as a work of fiction and gave herself complete sociopathic separation from any terrible shit in that book. Lily is his ideal perfect audience.
Eleanor and Cyrus welcome Sophie and Beatrice back to New York, and they are excited to hear Blair and Louis' announcement that is happening at Yom Kippur.
Yeah. Welcome back. It was nice for Cyrus to. I like the little throwback to when they greeted each other, too. That I hope you're still a hugger. And I thought that was cute.
Yeah, so the show recognizes that even someone as stuffy as Princess Sophie just can't help but love Cyrus.
Yeah, yes. That it is impossible not to love Cyrus. And yeah, I love that.
And I'm not sure how close you're paying attention, but seeing is another one just really shows what a good actress Margaret Collins is. Like, out of like when she sits down on the couch and she like puts her legs up and takes up the whole couch while everyone else is standing around her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This was an awesome Eleanor episode in general. I thought.
Blair and Louis come downstairs and announce Blair is having a baby. Cyrus is thrilled. Eleanor is initially shocked but rolls with it. Sophie is happy as long as they are married before the baby is born. Blair privately whispers to Beatrice, thanking her for keeping the secret. And Serena breezes past the celebration on her way to work.
Yeah. So, first of all, I loved Eleanor's reaction that it was like, what the fuck? Like, you're still in school.
Like, speaking of which, College Watch.
College was mentioned. Yes, the college was mentioned.
And with Serena, we get the first hint that she's kind of jealous of the way Blair is portrayed in the book.
Yeah.
She doesn't outright say it here, but she said,
yeah.
I can read about it. Yeah, she makes the comment about being able to read about it. Like, yeah. Yeah.
What's really annoying is that here you have Serena taking out her anger at something Dan fantasized and wrote about. And now she's mad at Blair for Dan's published fantasy.
Yes, but also it's not about the fantasy of Dan wanting to have sex with Blair. It's more about something we've known about Serena since season 1. She likes to be the muse. She likes to be of attention, and she's not in this
Right.
book.
Yeah,
Blair
of
is the
course.
star.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what she's jealous of.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Ivy is finishing up breakfast with Rufus and Lily and on her way to her first day of work. After she leaves, we see Rufus ignore a call from Dan. Lily says the obvious that he needs to hear Dan out, but Rufus says he hasn't finished pouting yet. Lily rolls her eyes.
Yeah, when Lily is being the good parent, Rufus, take notes, because what a fucking baby. You're ignoring your kid who's trying to apologize to you. And you're like,
I'm not ready. I'm not ready yet.
I'm not ready for my successful kid to remind me that he loves me. And I forget if I said it here on this podcast or if I said it to a friend, but when parents say, I didn't raise you to be like this, sorry, Rufus, this is exactly who you raised. Your kid is who you raised, how you raised him. So don't try that shit. You raised him and this is how he turned out.
And it was basically almost completely you for the last several years. Because his mom disappeared.
Yeah. Exactly.
Chuck and Nate are at the dog park with Monkey and discuss Nate's job. Dan shows up and Nate acts like a scorned lover before running off for work. Dan gives Chuck a spiked collar for Monkey, but Chuck thinks it might look better on a few girls he knows. Dan is still bemoaning that everyone is mad at him, but just then his luck appears to turn around as he gets a text from Serena.
Yeah. Nate, you are the worst of all of this because, like,
he's such a baby.
You are being such a fucking baby. And I honestly don't think that this is in character for Nate. I think that they were just trying to drive a wedge to send him further to.
Unless he was in love with Dan.
Well, unless he was in love with Dan. Which.
Because that's how he's acting.
Yeah, a little bit.
After Dan leaves, Monkey is inspecting another dog's hindquarters, and Chuck apologizes to the owner, an attractive, professional-looking woman. It turns out she is a psychologist. Chuck could use one of those, so she gives him her card.
Chuck has been needing one of those.
Yeah.
Chuck could have used a psychologist a long time ago.
Indeed.
Although I meant to pay attention if she said psychologist or psychiatrist when they met.
It says doctor of psychology on her card.
Okay.
At the Spectator, Diana, with Nate and Ivy and the rest of the staff, are getting ready for the big website launch, but they have to abort at the last minute because Gossip Girl scooped them.
What's more suspicious? Launching the thing or all of a sudden being like, we're not going to launch our thing the second that comes out? Either way, it looks like you stole a lot of cell phones and gave them back.
Yeah. I guess they, within a day, they still got a new story up. It was technical difficulties.
Right. It seemed... But also, this whole fucking magazine, God damn it, I hate this whole thing so much.
And we still don't know who's behind Diana.
Well, I think we got another clue, and I think we're inching towards something that I said a while ago, when I said I was never convinced Bart was dead, and now we'll get to it.
Back at the Waldorf apartment, Blair is explaining plans for the wedding to go on as planned, but the honeymoon will have to be postponed until after the baby. Beatrice pulls her mother aside and turns this into Blair trying to control everything with the baby.
Yeah. I hate them. Beatrice is the fucking worst. It's just conflict for drama's sake and just annoying. And it makes me hate Sophie too, because it just does. Like I'm so over Princess Blair. I can we get to this goddamn wedding and get it called off already? Can we get to whatever terrible thing makes Blair lose this baby and just get rid of that already? Because I'm over it. I'm over it.
Fair enough. At a cafe, Serena is giving a rehearsed apology to Dan, telling him she overreacted to the book. Dan, desperate for forgiveness, falls for it. Serena pretends to flirt with Dan, but we know she's faking it because she never puts that food she's playing with in her mouth. She leads to the conversations and the possibility of the book being made into a movie. Dan thinks that would be crazy awesome, but before Serena can get him to give the rights to Jane, he has to take a call from Alessandra and get to an interview. The first time I watched that, I was watching her play with that food. I was waiting for her to put it in her mouth and do something stupid with it. But she never did because she wasn't actually flirting.
Yep,
she was faking
have
it.
Heart in it. She'd never heart in it.
No.
Oh, excuse me, waitress. Can I get an order of strawberries, please? And just so subtle, Serena. So subtle. Hey, I'm really sorry for getting mad about the thing that I shouldn't have been upset about. So, what's happened to the movie rights to your book? Wow, wild. You don't know, huh? You know who would really like it? My boss. Hypothetically.
Dan exits the cafe and answers the call. He asks Alessandra how they can give the movie rights to Serena's boss. She tells him to hold his horses because they have Harvey Weinstein on the other line, and Jane What's-Her-Name is small fish in comparison. Dan is excited by the news. Back in the cafe, Serena calls Jane and says she's got the deal in the bag.
So, this is drama I can get behind. Like, this storyline I can get behind, right? Like, it makes sense. You have two people that are trying to, that have competing interests that one may not be best for each other, but could also work for each other. So I liked this. I did like this storyline in the episode. I felt like this storyline was the episode's saving grace, really. That, and it had Cyrus. But and also just Harvey Weinstein. Wow, this is really gonna go places. And this was 2011 still.
Yeah.
Late 2011.
So yeah, plenty of time to make his money and get out before Harvey has his big fall.
Yeah. And what's funny is that, like, what if this deal were to go through with Miramax, right? Or Weinstein, one of Weinstein's companies.
The Weinstein Group.
The Weinstein Group. That were to be the case, Dan probably would not receive the option to write his own screenplay. It would probably be, here's money for your thing, we'll take it from here. With a bigger group like that, with a little unknown author. Mm-hmm. And so Dan actually probably could have gotten this movie made for a lot of money without any kind of actual crossover with the Weinsteins,
Yeah.
without ever actually knowing what horrible things went into making his movie.
Yes. Which actresses were taken advantage of?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, whoever played young Serena in the movie. Do they get to the movie? Is that too much of a spoiler?
We'll see.
Because that would be kind of fun to do a few episodes of someone playing Serena, someone's playing
Yeah.
Claire and Sabrina.
We roll into Act 2. We come back from break, and Diana is. So we come back from break, and Diana and her cleavage are interrogating Ivy. Diana assumes Ivy is the one who leaked their launch to Gossip Girl. Diana doesn't believe Ivy's denials and says she needs to get her a better story by the end of the day, or else she is going to release the info about Ivy pretending to be Charlie. A Gossip Girl blast about the royals attending the Waldorf Yom Kippur has Ivy running to find the story.
Ivy, when are you going to get better at this? If you don't get me a better story, I'm going to leak that you're Ivy. If you don't get off my dick, I'm going to release to everyone that you are the thief that stole everybody's cell phones and all their personal data and all of their information. We have blackmail on each other.
Yep.
So get off my dick.
She needs Blair to explain it to her again, like she did with Carol.
Yeah, she really needs a coach. She needs Blair to be her Upper East Side coach.
So speaking of that, who do we think did leak to Gossip Girl?
I mean, I wouldn't think Nate would, because he's just not, he's too Nate of a Nate to do that. He's too golden retriever to do that, I would think.
Unless he is
So,
Gossip Girl.
yeah, unless he is Gossip Girl. If if Nate is Gossip Girl, that is the absolute biggest like spin on this show, because Gossip Girl reads, Gossip Girl is insightful, Gossip Girl makes predictions, and Gossip Girl does analysis. All things that are not Nate heavy activities. I have long come to believe that Gossip Girl is a man just for the wah of it all, the way this story does things, the way this show operates. That I think it was episode 1 I predicted it was Chuck.
Yeah.
And episode 1 I felt like it would be a regularly occurring segment of Who is Gossip Girl, until I realized that they didn't have an answer to that until near the end, if I'm correct, right? At least season 6, if not the end of the series. So at the same time, someone could be sitting there right now like, oh, what if Nate's Gossip Girl? And wrote this episode with that in mind. But I don't think it would be out of the show's character to have Nate be Gossip Girl. I think it would be out of Nate's character for him to be Gossip Girl, because of the sheer amount of work Gossip Girl does. That Nate doesn't do work like that.
Nate enters Diana's office as Ivy is leaving. Diana plays Ivy against Nate in an attempt to get herself an invite to the Waldorf's Yom Kippur.
Huh. It's a religious holiday and some strangers are throwing a party. I must attend. What? On what fucking... And you're asking Nate to get... Nate's not going. What? Why? This is
he has a perpetual invite to any invite at the Waldorf.
That is true. That is true. He will always be Eleanor's favorite, no doubt. But it is just, I hate this character so much that, like, oh, I'm an editor of this magazine, of this gossip rag, and I'm just gonna go into parties and just stop. It is, I hate it. I hate her presence on this show so much. I loved her first episode. She's like my new Vanessa. She was awesome in the first episode, and now I fucking hate her. 1 second, Leif. I'm gonna blow my nose. Let me mute this so you don't have to hear it. All right.
So who do you think lasts longer on the show, or Louis?
Oh, goddamn. I really want to say Louis. I really. All right, and are we talking going forward, or are we talking entire run? Because Louis, of course, started earlier than Diana.
Who will be the last man standing?
I. So my prediction is that Louis is gone by episode 11. I really hope that Diana is gone before that. But just because you're asking, I'm worried she's here for at least the entire season, which really makes me sad because I can't stand her. Maybe she's gonna be like a half season thing, like Juliet. You know, like Juliet started looking like she was, like, you know, going to be on the show for a while, and then halfway through
Just disappeared.
Instead, and kept Ben. Oh my god, this show.
Who could be Diana's Ben? Does she have a boyfriend hanging around somewhere?
Oh my god. Probably yes, and I, based on things in this episode, I'm wondering if this is Chuck's stepmom.
At New York One Studio, Dan is prepping for his interview with Alessandra. Dan is nervous and rambling but Alessandra tries to calm him down and tells him to mention Harvey, but Dan feels bad about cutting Serena out of the deal.
Yeah, and Dan, you could have, when you were listing all of the people who were in her. Oh, I guess we didn't do that yet. But I get how Dan feels, but he could have done something about it. But also,
But again, he's trusting his agent, which is a do because that is her job.
I do want to say I really liked Penn's acting in this scene too. I there was that flicker of him when she said, "Oh, well, you know, if this works, you can go on Charlie Rose," and he's like, "You're giving your already anxious and prone to rambling when he's anxious client this news right before he goes on."
Yes.
And just his presentation of that line and just how Dan of him it was in that moment, I really liked that.
Blair and Eleanor negotiate the future of Blair's child with Beatrice and Sophie while Louis and Cyrus watch like a ping pong match. Louis does actually try to speak up for Blair, but she has had enough and storms off. Beatrice comments under her breath in French.
Cyrus was like, "Lady," he said, I think in French, "ladies, please," or something like that. But Louis like, "Eleanor, that's enough." Which I thought was kind of strange for Louis to go at Eleanor and not both of the moms.
No,
Because
it
it's
was
like,
Louis that said ladies. Please.
Louis, because Cyrus says something, but Louis very directly says, "Eleanor, that's enough." which I thought was
And he also
really.
says mama.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Oh, okay. That I missed. I just caught the Eleanor, and I was like, "Damn, you're just going right at her." But now that you're mentioning it, I think that I get what you're saying. I think I heard it and didn't put it
Yeah.
together as that.
But I think the writers, they have Beatrice kind of commenting to Sophie in French, but I think the writers forgot that everyone in the room speaks French.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Eleanor and Cyrus both live most of the year in Paris.
In Paris, yeah. Although an American living in Paris does not preclude them knowing French. I would assume the two of them do,
Yeah.
especially Eleanor's entrenchment in the fashion world.
Yeah. And we know Blair is fluent as well.
Yes, and we know Blair is fluent. I just also would assume there are many Americans who would have the audacity to live in French and not speak the language and not get along very well because the French are not necessarily very forgiving of that either. So it'd be going the other way. So.
Chuck goes to Dr. Barnes' office and finds her leaving for the day. She notices the troubled look in his eyes and agrees to see him. Chuck lies on her couch and leers at her legs. When it becomes obvious he is only there to hit on her, Dr. Barnes throws him out so she can get to her own Yom Kippur service.
Oh, oh, classic Chuck. Classic.
Yeah.
I did notice that when he introduced himself to her in the earlier scene, and she said her name, he just said Chuck Bass. He didn't say I'm Chuck Bass, which I don't think he's said since Nate and Serena said he's Chuck Bass in the first episode.
Yeah. Ivy is back at the penthouse with Lily and fishing for a story. Her interest is piqued when she sees Lily putting Bart's family dossiers back into the safe.
Yeah.
Still hanging on to those.
Yep. Yeah, you still have these. Yeah. Why do? And she's. Oh well, I was gonna put him back in the safety deposit box, but I'm not gonna do that since since Chuck and Serena tried to break into it. I'm just gonna put them into Chuck's dad's old safe that I never changed the combination to.
Yeah.
So how are you preventing Chuck from tampering with your shit?
Well, I guess since I guess they never leave anymore.
Yeah.
These Rufus is pouting, so they can just guard it now.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
of course, Ivy gets her out.
I need to fix something on my laptop. All right.
Serena's coworker Sam is still ribbing her and tells her Dan is on TV talking about the movie. As they watch, he mentions Harvey Weinstein and Blazer, but not Jane. Blair bursts into the office wanting to talk to Serena about Sophie and Beatrice trying to control her baby, but Serena is still far too busy to deal with Blair. Serena asks Blair if she can convince Dan to sell the movie rights to Jane, but Blair doesn't care. Jane comes in and rags on Serena for gossiping while the deal is falling apart on live television. When Jane walks away, Blair tells Serena her boss is a bitch and she should quit so they can get lunch together. But Serena still wants to try to save her job.
So a few things here. First of all, this is where I'm like, Dan, when you're listing these producers who are interested in your book, you could have at least thrown Serena the bone of mentioning Jane as well. Like you could have done
You could have.
that. He didn't. I get it. But I get why Serena's pissed because you did talk about it and now you just didn't mention it at all. Okay. Blair coming in. Blair reminded me of me whenever Robin has a minor inconvenience at work. Robin will be like, "Oh man, someone scheduled a meeting for 3 o'clock on Friday," and my response every time is, "Quit." Just quit. So, but Blair's also kind of right here. Like, you don't need this job, and she's treating you like shit right now. And she was. Like, Jane came in and was like, you're just sitting here fucking gossiping. The one thing that I thought Jane said that really landed, though, like the real punch in the gut that I thought really got Serena, was when she's like, if nothing falls in your lap, you don't know what to do. And it's like,
that's later.
oh, is it? Oh, I thought that was right here. My bad.
But a couple other things. I feel like the Serena thinks that Blair could convince Dan to sign over the rights.
Yes, I meant to bring that up too. Again, it's showing that she has this like jealousy, but very subtle. Her attitude towards Blair is cold, and we know it's about the book, but it's so subtle in her little digs, which I also I thought it was done well. I thought that this storyline on the show was done well, even if I thought that her boss was a little bit much. I did think that this was the best part of this episode. This storyline.
Yeah, Jane was way over the top here. Yeah, you're blaming her for Serena for the deal falling apart. Serena is basically an intern.
Yeah.
She should have just been giving you the introduction, and then you got to sign the deal because you're the big producer.
Yeah.
You should be running point, not Serena.
Yes. Yeah. And how big of a producer are you if your staff is you and these two interns?
Yeah.
Like, how big of a production company do you have?
Blair, upset that everyone is moving on without her, calls Louis and tells him she is ready to move to Monaco and live life as a Grimaldi.
Yes. And
so yeah, she walks out of the office and calls Louis.
Yeah, she feels abandoned by Serena at this point and just doesn't really know what she has left here. I felt for Blair here. Although...
School?
Huh?
School?
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
that Ivy League education you fought
Columbus
so hard
thing,
for
right?
the first two seasons to get to...
that Columbus place she's doing, right?
Yes. Womp womp. We move into Act 3. Nate is doom scrolling Gossip Girl at work when he is interrupted by Chuck. Chuck needs Nate's advice on seducing an older woman, which is convenient because Nate needs advice on crossing moral lines. I like that Nate's just doom scrolling at work.
Yeah. Again, it's...
I'm going to find a news story by looking at old Gossip Girl stories.
Yeah, I'll find...
that, great idea, Nate.
He doesn't get paid to think.
No.
He gets paid to have sex with his boss. He just doesn't quite recognize that yet.
I think there's a word for that. Oh, yeah, prostitute.
Prostitute. Oh, yeah.
Blair finds Louis waiting for Eleanor and Cyrus to return from Temple. Louis didn't tell his mother about Blair's decision yet because he wants to make sure it's what Blair really wants first. Just then, Sophie and Beatrice walk into the room and Blair tells them herself. Sophie is overjoyed, but Beatrice rolls her eyes, upset that her plan failed.
Beatrice is so fucking annoying. Maybe she can act in French. I don't know, but
I think your acting's fine.
I found it just to be so transparent, maybe? Which I know is kind of a thing you're going for in acting, but I thought it was just a little too...
I blame it on the writing.
Yeah,
the character is just written to be over the top, one-dimensional. I want the throne. That's my only motivation.
Yeah, and that's really what's bothering me. So maybe I'm putting too much on the actor. That I felt like there were some of the things that she was telegraphing were just, I don't know. It felt like with Matt Settle when it's Matt act mad. Like I kind of got that from her.
Again, she has
But
so
it might
little
be
to
that I just
work.
hate
She
this
has so
character.
little to work for as far as a character is. It's what is my characterization? You want the throne, and you are evil.
Yeah. And that is the character of Beatrice.
Yes.
So yeah, I get it. Yeah. Again, I hate this storyline. I hate half of the storylines going on right now. So
Yeah, storyline is stupid. I don't really have a problem with the actress.
yeah, I'm projecting.
Lily is frustrated that Rufus is forcing her to look through the same Chinese menu for the 5th time in 7 nights. Ivy comes in and convinces them to go to the Waldorf's breaking of the fast. With the penthouse to herself, she texts Nate to come over. ...
Ivy, I know you don't know Nate well enough, but that means thinks you want to bang.
Yeah.
And Nate will come over to bang because that will be the new shiny thing in front of him. ... means something else.
Yes.
It's like on The Office when with Craig Robinson's character when ...
Eleanor is still stressing about the fasting when Beatrice introduces her to Diana. They try to get a reaction out of Eleanor when Beatrice surprises her with the news that Blair is moving to Monaco. Eleanor scoffs and says Blair will do what she wants and not. Sorry, she will do what she wants, and it's not like she's signing a contract.
Yeah. And yeah, because Blair is gonna do what she wants. And I love how like unfazed how Eleanor takes a moment to be like, "Oh, wow, is that a thing?" Okay, yeah, Blair's gonna do whatever she wants. It's not like she's signing a contract. She's gonna go
Mm-hmm.
there while she wants to be there. Also, this was, what the fuck are you doing at my house? With Diana Payne just like
Yeah.
being introduced by Beatrice.
And we do see a little bit before they introduce her is like where Beatrice and Diane are scheming a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But then yeah, she's like, oh yeah, Nate Archibald called about me. And I was like, yeah, okay, I guess so.
Yeah, why are you here?
Back at the office, Serena once again gets demeaned by Jane for losing the project. Jane says F. Scott Fitzjackass nailed Serena in his book. When Jane leaves, Serena hops back in on her laptop, clearly up to something because Gossip Girl says sometimes all it takes to cross a line is a little push.
Yeah, again, like Jane is an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
She does kind of nail Serena here because
Because Dan kind of nailed Serena here.
because Dale, well, because we know Dan nailed Serena, but also Dan nailed Serena in the book, right?
Yeah.
That is who Serena is. If something doesn't fall in her lap, she doesn't know how to get it. It was like, ooh, cold.
But again, yes, why are you relying on this teenager
With
secure
zero experience.
to secure this $1 million project?
She has been working for you for 5 minutes and has zero experience. She is seriously, this is episode 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's worked for you for a month? Like
Well,
a month.
presumably she worked all summer for her as well on the movie.
Oh, I guess that episode was supposed to be midsummer and not the end of the summer. And I guess I take it working directly for her, right? Like on the other movie, she wasn't directly working for Jane. She was working under the other guy and the other director and whatnot. Whereas then she got hired directly by Jane a month ago, 4 weeks ago. Jane was like, "Oh, I recognize the good work you do. Now come work for me." and know everything about the industry right now and don't mess up at all ever.
Mm-hmm. Alessandra and Dan are walking down the street talking about how excited Harvey Weinstein is about the project. However, Alessandra gets a call that Harvey canceled because it's on deadline that Jane's company got the rights. Is that how that works?
They seem to think that's how it works a lot, because this is the second time that somebody just up and canceled because they saw a thing. Because the Daniel Day-Lewis project, where they just see Serena is in a book and they're like, well, nope, no more.
Well, that was more of just not wanting to be involved in that thing. This is like a whole thing where they could just verify that no, Jane does not have the project.
Yeah.
You are still welcome to buy it, Harvey.
Yeah. It's still for sale.
But apparently not.
Yeah.
We move into Act 4. Lily and a still grumpy Rufus arrive at the party, and we see a delicious-looking buffet set up.
Yes.
This is where he's like, Eleanor calls you Lily Bass one more time.
Yeah. And she gave him permission to go full Sean Penn.
Yeah.
Was Sean Penn back in the news in 2011 for some more of his shenanigans? I feel like that's such a dated reference.
It's never a dated reference with Sean Penn.
Yeah, I guess so. Although his most recent work, have you seen One Battle After Another?
No.
It's worth the watch.
Eleanor finds Cyrus reviewing a legal document with Blair and Louis. Princess Sophie had an actual contract drawn up for detailing how the baby will be raised. Cyrus points out that the rules in the contract are ridiculous and breaking them could cause Blair to lose custody.
Yeah. Blair was all ready to sign this thing. It's a good thing she's like, oh, I have 2 lawyers for dads. So listen to the fucking dad lawyer.
Yeah.
Which at least when he said, like, you can lose custody, she was like,
wait, what?
Oh, wait, that's not cool. So,
and even Louis was upset by that.
Yeah, Louis didn't even recognize that provision.
Yeah, Blair was being an idiot in this episode.
Yeah, sometimes, and it's one of those things where I sometimes feel the writers, like this episode particularly, I don't feel like the writers necessarily nailed the characters for who they are, you know, except for Serena.
And again, it was a first-time writer.
Yeah, that's true.
Nate finds Charlie trying to break into Lily's safe. Nate texts Chuck for help getting in. Chuck texts back the safe combo, and we see him stalking Dr. Barnes.
Yeah.
Old Chuck is back.
Yep. Yeah.
Dan goes to Jane's office where she pretends to kiss his ass. Dan thinks Jane pushed Serena to sabotage his deal, but Serena walks in and takes full credit for the scheme.
Yeah. I like that Dan was ready to... Dan has never had an issue going after authority figures. Dan is always, when he felt something was unjust or not right, he'll go at anybody. And he did the same thing here with Jane, only to find out he was wrong. But yeah. Jane was like, no, I want your book.
I like the actress. The actress who played Jane did a good job of being bad acting here.
Yeah.
Pretending to kiss Dan's ass, because like we know she thinks very little of him.
Yeah.
Wow, it's windy out there. Can you hear that at all?
No, not picking up on my end.
Louis comes down to the party with the contract and complains about it first to his sister and then to his mother. We discover the more outrageous clauses were snuck in by Beatrice. But because Blair was rightfully upset, Sophie now thinks her daughter was right to include them. Sophie says that if Blair doesn't sign the contract, she won't acknowledge the child or Louis as her heirs. But Louis steps in and says, "Too late, no takesies backsies."
Yeah. I This was like the first time that I was like, okay, Louis. Fuck yeah, Louis. Because he's like, it is up to my kid to recognize you. And it was like, damn.
How the hell
That's,
does this royal succession thing work here?
yeah. Well, and none of it really makes a whole lot of sense. It does seem like it's all tied up in a circus somehow.
Yes. But no, you already said I could be it, so you can't take it back now. Too late.
Yeah. No takesies, backsies. Well, yeah, because you already convinced the board that I'm allowed to be, even though you were going to convince them not to be. Jesus Christ. And I hate, that's what I hate.
And we move into Act 5. Sophie tells Louis that he is making a mistake to trust Blair. She even told Beatrice before him about the pregnancy, but Louis insists that he can trust her. Sophie sweeties him before she walks away. Sophie tells Beatrice that she might be moving up in the line of succession, and Beatrice surreptitiously nods to Diana across the room, who has clearly been watching all the scandal unfold.
Beatrice, why are you putting your faith into this random person that you just met? This random gossip columnist that you just met?
Because she's desperate, and all she needs is help causing more chaos.
Yeah.
So
but you don't know this person. This isn't an ally.
but they have mutual interest.
Yeah. Well, but they don't. Here in the sense that Beatrice has interest in the chaos to get to a certain goal. Diana's interest, it doesn't matter what happens with Beatrice. All that matters is that there's drama. So you're basically trusting someone whose entire goal is just to use you to stoke drama in your family for her to exploit for her own newspaper.
Well, Beatrice went to the Littlefinger school of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Chaos is a ladder. Ivy and Nate are staring at the treasure trove of secrets and scandal they pulled from Lily's safe. Ivy is excited to save her job and keep her cover as Charlie, but Nate says they should put it all back because he can't betray his friends. Nate appears to convince her to do the right thing.
Well, he gets her with the line, "You're acting like you don't even know these people." At which point, Ivy is like, "Oh, right, that's because I don't even know these people, and I need to stop seeming that way immediately."
Whoops.
Yeah.
Chuck is still stalking Dr. Barnes, and he confronts her on a dark street. She calmly gives him a dime store psychoanalysis, and this kind of breaks Chuck, and she walks away.
Yeah. It was a nice teardown, though. And it was something that Chuck needed to hear.
Yeah.
And
it was 100% right.
There was no lies detected in anything she said. I actually really liked it, and I love that Chuck just sat there at the end like owned, just recognizing that he had just been owned.
Yeah.
Well done.
Serena finds Dan still waiting for her in the office after she had gone all the way to Jane's car, apologizing along the way. Dan finally figured out that she was playing him at the breakfast earlier. Serena says she finished the book and Dan reiterates that it's fiction and inspired by a lot of different things. Serena says Dan was the love of her life, and she thought she was his as well.
And you were, Serena. You were at one point. And there are stories.
Well, I like what Dan points out at the end there. They're still young. No time to find the love of your life.
Yeah, yes, that too. But also, Serena, there are stories Dan wrote about you that are not in a bad light, that aren't about him eventually getting together with Blair. He wrote a novel while he was into Blair. Get over it. And much like Nate, it's not just you. It is a bunch of people combined into you.
And this is Gossip Girl's thoughts on it. That's the thing about writing what you know. Soon, everybody else knows it too. We move into the epilogue. The Spectator launches its website, this time with a story about the royal feud as its lead. Ivy and Nate are sitting together and are glad they didn't have to cross any moral lines and keep their jobs, at least for now. Ivy sees Diana staring her down. Nate, of course, is oblivious. As the meeting is breaking up, Diana tells Ivy to come back to her office for a private chat.
Yeah. Way to go, everybody. We now have stuff to write about. And yeah. It was dumb.
Back at the party, Eleanor confesses that she gave Beatrice the idea of a contract, but then tells Blair that she will be a good mother. Eleanor gives a lovely speech about accepting that children will do things on their own time schedule. The two hug.
Yeah. She's like, look, I may have given her the idea because I was just telling her that you're going to always do what you want. And that's who I raised you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that. Just another wonderful Eleanor being the best parent on the Upper East Side moment.
Yeah, they accepted the kids are going to do things on their own timetable.
Yeah, exactly.
Rufus and Lily overhear the conversation, and Lily shames him, causing Rufus to finally realize he's being a shitty parent and should answer Dan's calls.
Mm-hmm. Fucking asshole. You're such an asshole, Rufus. No, I don't have any kids that like me.
Blair is still talking to Eleanor when Serena shows up and pulls her aside. Serena apologizes that she hasn't been there for Blair like she promised. Serena admits she was jealous that Blair is the star of Dan's book. Blair once again says it's pure fiction, and the two besties hug it out.
Yay. But yeah, and also, like, again, Serena having to own that if she's not in the spotlight, she's butthurt. So.
Yep. Even though when she is in the spotlight, she acts like she's so above it.
Yeah.
When Ivy comes to Diana's office, we see that she did give the files to Diana after all. Diana returns the folders, but not before secretly swiping something out of Bart's folder.
Yes. Something from Bart's folder. But also, Ivy is all like, and you're not going to use these for anything, right? I just gave you all of this information and all of these secrets, but you're not going to use them for your magazine that is what I stole them for.
But as we know, pretty much all has been on Gossip Girl.
I'm just talking about the naivety of Charlie to even steal it, give it to her, and then not expect her to use whatever is in there. But yeah, she takes something from the Bart folder. Did we see what it is yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Serena gets a call from Dan and says they are still too young to know who the loves of their lives are. He agrees to sell the book's option to Jane, but that he wants to write the screenplay. Serena looks forward to spending time with him in production meetings, and Dan takes a call from Rufus.
Yeah, I liked how that ended up. I liked that because I liked that Dan was like, he sees where Serena's coming from, and Dan has always been like that. Of course, Dan has also been anything Serena wants. Dan's
he was in this exact position last year.
Yeah,
so he knows exactly how she feels.
Mm-hmm.
And he recognized that and he feels bad about it, but he can't control that. He just doesn't feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
Chuck leaves a message for Dr. Barnes admitting she was right and that he does need help. He says he's ready to be serious. She picks up just as he hangs up.
Good. Let's hope that Chuck actually gets some therapy. That I like that storyline.
Maybe not from this particular therapist.
Maybe not. But he needs therapy.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be this particular therapist. But he needs therapy.
We see Diana alone in the office, and the file she pulled from the folder is a photo of her much younger self. She looks at the photo reminiscently for a moment before burning it.
Yeah. It's an incriminating photo of you fully clothed that Bart Bass has from when you were young. Okay. Oh, I also
So it says Nate banging Chuck's mommy.
Yeah, I mean I had that thought. That this could be Mrs. Bass, a former Mrs. Bass, or somehow be Chuck's mom. Because it was inconclusive as to whether or not the other one was Chuck's mom, right? Because they kind of went back and forth and alluded to, yeah, she was, but maybe she wasn't, but the DNA said something, but the DNA may have been fixed.
Well, she told Chuck that she wasn't, but I thought it was pretty clear that she was.
That was my interpretation of how things ended. This also could be tied to Howie somehow, I think, too. But we'll see.
Is it Nate's mom? Blair finds Louis sitting in her bedroom alone with the desk drawer open. Blair apologizes for coming between him and his mother, but he says she is all the family he needs now. When she goes to run a bath, we see that he has found the paternity test. He pulls out his phone and calls Dr. Barnes and says he has a problem and is more than willing to pay for her time. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, let's see how ethical of a psychologist she is, because it seems like he's going to be paying her for info on Chuck. So, awesome.
And these are Gossip Girl's final comments on the episode. As challenging as atoning can be, the rewards make it worth the sacrifice. But the most difficult part can be admitting there was a sin to begin with. The problem with hiding your sins is they always come back. And on the day when some have atoned for past transgressions, a once pure prince can't help but commit a new one. XO Gossip Girl. That is our episode. What is coming next?
Okay, well, we're gonna get some kind of tie-in to Bart Bass. Obviously, there has to be. Diana is now tying things to Bart, so we gotta. So something is getting tied up there. I've been predicting that I think that Bart may not be dead, and I think that this might be evidence that they're looking to bring Bart back. I God, I just want this whole Diana Payne thing to blow up and be done, but I feel like we're in for such a long haul on it. I think that we're going to see Louis bribing a therapist for information. I think we're going to see a lot of Dan and Serena working together. I and yeah, I want to see where they go with making this movie and whatnot. But I didn't feel like there was a lot of real like substance in this episode the way there often is.
Definitely a filler episode.
Yeah, a catch-up filler. Yeah.
Will Blair ever read the book? And if so, what will her reaction be?
Yeah, I think she'll read the book, and I think it's gonna strike her. I think it's gonna open up some feelings that she has for Dan. I still have high hopes for Dare, and I think that the book is where Blair is really gonna see how Dan views her.
Anything else coming up?
I don't think so. We got a wedding that's gonna I think the wedding's gonna happen, but fail. So we'll see where that goes.
So you've already said we're gonna lose the baby. Do you think that'll happen before or after the wedding?
I think it's going. I would think before. So then they're like, "Oh, we don't want to get married now." I could also see it happening right after or during, like being the catalyst. So, but I'm gonna go with before for right now.
Yeah. That is it for our episode. Let's get into segments. This week in fandom, we jumped into the Wayback Machine to travel to the Television Without Pity forums from 2011. Their overall impression, this was a boring episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, God, please tell me that Diana isn't Chuck's mom.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. That.
Ivy is losing the plot, willing to betray the family just so she can keep the secret to stay in with said family.
Yeah. Yeah. She's letting everything get away from her.
The only good part of the Diana plotline was Gossip Girl giving her the smackdown.
Yes. Facts.
After a good few episodes at the end of season 4 and leading into season 5, Serena is back to her old bullshit.
Correct.
Confused about how Serena's leak killed the deal.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And finally, the shippers were hanging on for the dare crumbs.
That's why I'm still here. That and the podcast. But I'm pretty sure that if there wasn't a podcast, I probably would have dropped off somewhere before.
Yeah. Fair enough. Moving over to episode grades. I went first last time, so it is your turn to go first.
I'm gonna land this one at a C minus. I did like the Dan storyline. I didn't hate the Chuck storyline. I hated the other two things. Chuck's psychologist storyline was just kind of there for me. And then also I'm like, good for Chuck, he needs a psychologist. But I hated the Louis stuff. I hated the Diana stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna land it at a C minus.
Yeah, this is definitely a subpar episode. Yeah, the only thing that saved it from D territory, I think, was basically Cyrus
Mm-hmm.
and and Eleanor. She had some really good acting in this episode as usual.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was also a C minus.
Yeah.
Stockwatch, who do you have going up?
Cyrus and Eleanor, as always, because they're awesome. I'm gonna I'm gonna have Blair go up because I feel like she did regain her power by the end. So I'm gonna have her go up. Dan's book is getting made into a movie, so I'm gonna give Dan an up. I'm gonna give Lily an up for being the bigger person and trying to get Dan to talk with, or Rufus to talk with Dan. I think that is probably. Did Diana get what she wants? Yeah, I'm gonna let Diana. Whatever she's up to, Diana's goes up right now because she's working something successfully, as dumb as it is. And I'm gonna give what's her name, Eliza, the doctor,
Dr. Barnes.
Dr. Barnes. I'm gonna give Dr. Barnes an up for schooling Chuck a little bit on Chuck. I think that's it.
All right, for me, I had Lily going up because she was the smart parent. Dr. Barnes, yes, like you said, she got to give Chuck a little verbal smackdown. We always like to see that. I did have Chuck actually going up because he finally at the end realized that he does
Oh,
need to see a therapist.
I actually did want to have Chuck go up too. And Chuck in general had a good episode for Chuck. You know, he was being this slimy old Chuck again, but his heart wasn't in it. And he did, like you said, come around to that at the end.
I also had Serena and Jane going up because even though they were shitty people all episode, they got the movie. They
Yeah,
got the rights. So
they did.
they got what they wanted. Eleanor and Cyrus going up because they were great as usual. I had Beatrice going up because she got that little nod at the end, even though she was kind of fooled all episode. She did get the nod from her mom, which that's kind of what she wanted all along. She wanted her
Yeah, it
mom to
is.
acknowledge her.
Yeah.
And then I didn't like this guy at first, but because he's just consistently a sassy bitch, he started to grow on me. Serena's coworker Sam.
Hmm. I can see that too. I can see that one too.
Who do you have?
I'm leaving Serena neutral because terrible episode one on the end. I just left her in the middle, and same with Jane because I just think that Jane kind of sucks even if she got what she wanted in the end. But actually going down, I don't really feel. Oh, the only person that Rufus, just for still being an asshole, even though he called in the end. Rufus just sucks. The princess, the mom,
Sophie.
who is seeing her shit spiral and is going to have to work harder to get things under control. I'm going to send her down too. Ivy, I'm sending down because she got so fucking played and she's just getting pushed around. And I'm going to say Nate for just being fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Nate's just dumb right now, so Nate. That's it.
Yeah, for me, Rufus was also my number one, but I also had Dan going down because he missed out on having Oscar buzz with Harvey Weinstein. Blair going down because she is kind of spiraling again. Louis going down because I don't know what he's doing. He's flip flopping all over the place, and now he's trying to bribe therapists, and not good. Ivy going down because she's just so close to being exposed, and it's going to happen any moment.
Yeah.
Nate going down because he is once again being played. And I had Diana going down because even though she did get the opening, her story is stupid and she did get smacked down by Gossip Girl.
She's
and
so stupid.
she is trying to copy a teenager's website and not doing a good job of it.
Yeah, she's doing a very bad job of it.
Moving to best outfit, who do you got?
This one was tough for me because there wasn't a lot to work with. And I
Mm-hmm.
went with Beatrice. That blue dress that she was wearing throughout the episode was probably, I thought, the best dress and the best outfit in general.
That was a nice dress. I also liked Lily's green dress she had at the party. It was decent. The one I actually gave to, at first I didn't like it, but it grew on me on my rewatches. Blair's pink sleeveless mini dress with the white framing. It was actually from Victoria Beckham's spring of 2010 collection.
Yeah, I didn't care for that one. I thought it was too boxy.
That's what I thought at first, but it grew on me.
Oh, that's fair. I want to also, while we're talking fashion, in general, Ivy's style. That I feel like Ivy really dresses a lot like season 1 Serena before Serena had her boobs in every scene. Before the her rider was updated to make sure that there was enough cleavage in every episode, that like she wears these really kind of casual, flowy but elegant looking outfits that reminded me of season 1 Serena.
Well, Elizabeth Hurley is sharing the cleavage quota
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Blake Lively this year.
very much, yes.
I also did like Chuck's suit, but I couldn't give it to him because it was wrinkled like the whole episode.
Yeah, yeah. From all the laying down, I assume.
That is it for segments. Do you have anything you would like to plug this week?
I am still reading Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I also just the crossovers with Gossip Girl and the references. There's an entire Grimaldi circus storyline in one of the books. There's also a time where one of the characters is trying to name a changeling, and she can't decide to name it Ivy or Charlie. And there's it's just and
I
other
might have to
just
prevent you from reading this book for fear of spoilers. You might have to
I
stop
I
reading.
I think that the biggest one is just the accident in season 5 is the only thing that has been brought up that I don't know about. And honestly, most of the references just fly past. Like if I wasn't watching Gossip Girl, I wouldn't have caught that Charlie Ivy reference at all because it doesn't say that they were named after Gossip Girl characters. It didn't mention Gossip Girl at all in that part of the book. It's just she was trying. There's another couple people that she names Lorelai and Rory at another part of the book. So the character is a cat who had the television left on when she would be alone. So she knows all of these TV shows. It's very funny. And I definitely recommend the audiobook because the guy reading it is spectacular. And outside of that, please find my Instagram and my TikTok, steve.marchon, Marchion.
Nothing for me to plug this week, but you can follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Blue Sky at Hot Capicola. That's HOTCAPICOLA. And you can follow the podcast at Non-Judging Breakfast Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. You can find links to our Discord, or if you want to support us, you can find our Patreon link or our subreddit all on our website, nonjudgingbreakfastpod.com.
And if you would like to get in touch with us, we would love to hear what you have to say. Please send us an email at nonjudgingbreakfastpod@gmail.com, and we would love to read your thoughts here on the show and let everyone know what you have to say. Also, while you're listening, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like, the comment, the subscribe button, and leaving a comment really helps us with our visibility in Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. So please share your thoughts with us. And finally, Let your friends know what you're listening to. Tell some folks who are just starting their Gossip Girl dive for the first time that there's some fun people to listen to, break down every episode along with them, and go ahead and make us your water cooler talk.
And we will be back next week to talk about Season 5, Episode 6, I Am Number 9. The episode description reads, Blair makes all her former minions and Charlie compete to secure the coveted bridesmaid spot in her upcoming royal wedding. Nate is tired of keeping his relationship with Diana secret, so he decides to use Charlie to make Diana jealous. Serena's boss is determined to acquire the film rights to the Dan's book, so Serena must put her personal feelings about Dan and the book aside in order to close the deal.
Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Like, I don't know if I'm going to hate this episode or not, but I love Blair making all of the minions fight for bridesmaids positions. That is classic fucking Blair. That is classic Gossip Girl. Give me that. Bring that on.
I will spoil it. It might be a friend Alice's best episode of the series.
Oh, really? We should see if she's available next week.
Yeah. I have reached out. I don't know if it's going to work out.
Okay. Well, I can...
So I will be cutting this part out of the podcast. Oh. Until next time, you know you love us.
XOXO.